We are the Keyboard Samurai, a podcast focused on sharing insights to help those working in cybersecurity companies, be them technology or services. Each session, your host, Will Klusovsky, aka Will Clue, sits down with professionals in our industry to illuminate topics that will help your security biz, team, or self be better. Let's hack into it now. Hey everybody, welcome back. Excited today to bring in longtime LinkedIn buddy of mine, AJ. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Excited to finally be on. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, it should be great. So AJ, why don't you go ahead and give everybody the 20 seconds of who you are and why we care.
Yeah, I'm AJ Yawn. I'm a GRC guy. Been in the space for almost 15 years now. Captain in the Army, principal consultant at Coalfire. Started a company, scaled that up, a compliance automation company. And now I'm a director of GRC engineering at Aquia and just released the GRC engineering for AWS book. So I'm a GRC guy. I'm strangely addicted to GRC, even though I challenge the current state of it.
No, well, it's funny because I have a similar. I always say I never really spent a lot of time in any one domain, so I kind of know. I always say I know a whole little about a lot.
Yeah.
But GRC I think is the one I understood the most about. So I can go ahead and claim those roots. I probably spent more time doing audits and assessments than managing firewalls for sure.
Yeah. People be surprised how much time GRC takes, especially the more you go up in leadership. It's something that I always talk about. Like, hey, if you want to be a CISO one day, wouldn't it be bad for you to spend time doing some GRC work now? Like, you're going to have to deal with that. You're going to have to go talk to the board about it. That's how you're going to get financing for things and budget for things. Saying, hey, if we comply with this thing, we'll get this new industry unlocked. So it's a big part of that leadership area. And I hope that it continues that way in this new era of AI for sure.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the future, and I have to say, I want to. I'm not going to call anybody out, but like, I do all these call for papers to go do these different events, and I went to one of these security events, and I was like, hey, I'm going to present on how to build a security program, right? It's like GRC 101, all the risk assessment, all the stuff.
Yeah.
And they denied my thing, which is fine, like that happens. But they gave me feedback, and they were like, this is kind of security adjacent, and I was like. Okay, who are you? Like, so clearly it was, and probably just a room full of hackers who didn't realize that there was anything in security beyond like blue team, red team, but it was a little frustrating.
Yeah, I finally this year got accepted to Forward CloudSec, and I got a chance to speak there, but I have been applying for the last 3 years, I think, and just kept getting declined. And I think it's because when you put GRC up, everybody's like, oh no. And even people told me they like came to my talk, because my talk was on GRC engineering, and they're like, hey man, like I was not excited about coming to a GRC talk, but I'm glad I did. Even the guy raised his hand. He was like, I didn't think I would say this beforehand, and no offense, AJ, but this has been my favorite talk. And it's just like their mindset was like a GRC talk. Oh man, here we go again. Like, here comes the compliance guy to talk about stuff. But it's like, no, like we can actually engineer, do some technical stuff in this field if we do it right.
Well, and it's, I mean, to go off on a tangent too, like, and there are some events that cater to new or inexperienced presenters, and that's great because everybody needs to start. But you got guys like me and you who can tell a story and hold a room, and we can kind of make any topic exciting. And I think people forget that a lot. It's like, no, I'm not going to go up there and go down the NIST CSF.
Right.
That's not how this is. Like the ones I do, like I try to put in like 3 or 4 stories to like make sure people understand. Yep. And this is how it works in the real world. This is the output and things like that. So
yep, storytelling is so huge, man. Like, I think I was talking to some folks recently about speaking, and they were just asking me like what my technique is, and I'm like, you have to think about, as a kid, how did you learn? Stories. It's all stories. So you have to tell a story and put the audience as the hero in the story. You'll have them locked in the whole time. And I try, especially at conferences. I think the biggest mistake people make, and I know we're just doing exactly what probably was going to happen anyway. We just start talking. But people get up there, man, and they just start reading bullet points, and it's like, people didn't come here for another Zoom meeting, man. Like, they get these all the time and their day jobs. So like, I think like that should be like a new rule in conferences. Like, you can't read the bullet points. Like, I'd rather you have very little words. Like the talk I did a couple of weeks ago, again, mainly pictures, mainly like infrastructure graphics, screenshots from AWS. One slide was pretty technical screenshot from GitLab, some code stuff. So there's a couple bullet points to explain that. But for the most part, very little actual bullet points because I wanted people to hear what I'm saying. I think that slides can be a crutch, man. Like I think some people leverage their slides as a crutch, and it's like, no, just rehearse, tell the story. And if you know what you're talking about, it's easy. Like, and that's the thing too. People try to go do talks just to do a talk. Don't do a talk unless you know what you're talking about, have some scars, because it's a lot easier to talk about things you've experienced versus like something you read about.
Right. No, and I do the same thing. Like my slides are mostly graphics and a couple bullet points for me to make sure I covered everything.
Yeah.
Because I like, as much as I rehearse, I'm like, I know topically I'm going to talk about these things, and then it's however I feel and what happens, right?
Yep.
And sometimes I'll be like, oh yeah, we didn't cover that. Let me go. Like, I'd much rather that than somebody that's like super well rehearsed and forgettable, just kind of reading from the prompter. So So we're going to chat about the future of GRC. And that I assume that has something to do with AI.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So you know, when I say the future of GRC, what's AJ think? What's your first instinct? What do you want to warn everybody about?
That GRC professionals are going to have no choice but to be technical. And if you're a non-technical GRC pro, you won't have a job in 5 years. Is my first thought. Is that I think if I want people to understand like my perspective, right? Like I'm speaking as someone who served as a CEO of a company that had to manage a ton of money. Then was a partner at a top 20 CPA firm, had to deal with a lot of money at that level. So like I understand some of the conversations that are happening at the highest levels right now, and CEOs and boards are being told to save money. They're being told, hey, AI is here. You need to do more with less. I want to see higher margins. That spotlight has been put on HR, marketing, a little bit into IT. It's starting to go. When that spotlight gets on security, fully on security, if I'm a GRC professional, I'm worried. Because for all the things that people talk about what AI cannot do, you know what it can do? It can read a document and spit out some analysis on it. And if that is your only value as a GRC professional, is just, and I was talking about it in like a lot of the hallway conversations last week, I called a lot of GRC professionals are just middleware between the security engineer and the auditor. They're just taking data from one person to another. They don't know anything about the data. They can't translate it. So the auditor asks, hey, what is this in the SIEM logs X, Y, and Z? I have no clue. Let me go ask the security engineer. Hey, what is this? And then you're just playing. So if that's your job, you are at risk. And I think the way out, the future is this GRC engineering movement. We need GRC professionals that know Python, that know infrastructure as code. And I'm not saying you have to become a full security engineer, the greatest Python developer at your company, but you should understand how to write a basic function to grab some data from somewhere and put it out. You should be able to know how to use the AWS CLI or Azure version of that, or Google, whatever cloud provider your folks are on. So yeah, I think the era of, oh man, you're a technical GRC professional, you're going to stand out. That era is gone because everybody's going to have a requirement to be technical. Because again, like if I'm looking from a business perspective, if I have a security engineer who knows Python, who knows the cloud, understands my technical stack, but doesn't know a ton about GRC, and then I have this GRC person who only knows GRC, doesn't know any of the technical qualities, I'm probably thinking, you know what? I saw this guy make this bot that trained on our employee handbook. I could probably make a bot trained on SOC 2, give it to the security engineer, and they could do that. So why do I need this person? And you just have to like, if I'm thinking self-preservation as a GRC person, like I better get some technical skills is what I think about.
It's super interesting because, well, and I've always said for GRC and leadership and security, like both of those kind of like, you need to know enough to be able to call bullshit, right?
Exactly.
That's kind of the depth. Like I learned how to code in college and then never coded again, right? But like I understood all of that, right? I understood how it works, and so I could do business analysis. I could get feasibility and go tell the developer how it needs to work and all that stuff, right? But yeah, I wasn't running Python scripts. But to your point now, I look at a lot of the tools that come out, and it's great because I don't want to read SOC 2s, like. And sure, I can search for keywords, and if I don't find whatever is exception, right, within the document, I can be like, okay, this one's probably okay. I'm not reading 190 pages of it. But now with AI, it's great because you can drop that in. But I do think there is that level of translation, and this is this is interesting to me because like a good GRC consultant or not even consultant, GRC professional, right? Understands that translation of, why this matters. Because that's the thing I know I experienced doing audits and assessments was, asking the network team about such and such with this thing. And they're like, well, why does that matter? And back in the day, it's like, well, you don't have any generic credentials. We need to be, who logged in, and like understanding the underlying issues, which is something I kind of preach wholeheartedly across anything. Like even as a firewall engineer, I don't care if you know Palo Alto or Fortinet. I need to know that why any rule is bad. Right. Like exactly. I need you to tell me why.
Understand the concepts, right? Yeah.
So being able to get to those concepts, so I can get on board with the idea that we need some technical GRC people, but I would kind of argue that probably always should have been the case.
Absolutely, 100%. I used to hate when I was an auditor at Coalfire back in the day, and people would be like, "Oh, AJ, you're one of our technical auditors," and I used to always push back on that and say, "Hey, there's no other option. We are evaluating technical environments. So if I'm the only one, we're wrong as an organization. Like this is not good." And I agree with you. Like it's overdue. And I think GRC has gotten away with saying that, oh, I'm not technical for a while. Like we've been able to get away with that. And you could probably grow and have a decent career in the past without doing it. And I think that's going away with this new era of AI. And I think to your, like, yeah, exactly. Like it's not, I don't need you to come in and be able to like review this Python program that a security engineer wrote. No, like that's not what I'm saying, but have a conversation where you understand the technology, because if you can do that, I'm experiencing it now in my day job where we're working with some cloud security teams, and they're bringing us new ideas of things that they're planning on doing from a security perspective and asking, how can this work with some of the continuous authority to operate assessment stuff that we're doing? And it's that relationship only came about because they know that we understand AWS. Myself and my group of GRC engineers are working with them daily on the cloud. So now they're like, oh, these guys can help us do that, exactly what you're talking about, that translation that then will help us. What they're learning is if we work with the compliance guys, the GRC engineers, people will do this. They'll listen to us. They'll actually follow the rules because their boss or whoever. So I think that's exactly what I'm talking about is I don't think you can effectively build the relationships that you need to get the buy-in that you need to even do any kind of automation and just get real evidence that improves security without being able to go have a real conversation. Because if you come in and they're like, can I get a screenshot? And they're like, screenshot of what? They're like, the firewall. You're like, you want a screenshot of the firewall? And it's like,
the rack.
Now the guy has just turned off and is trying to find the fastest way to get out of this meeting because he doesn't. And I tell people all this time, what they need to remember, security engineers, software engineers, HR folks, et cetera. I think GRC people forget those folks have a day job. Their job in their performance reviews, when they get evaluated at the end of the year, there's not a line item for help the audit guys. They have other things to do that they're trying to do to feed their families, to get promoted. So we have to think with the user mentality of like, I know this person is not a GRC professional, so they don't necessarily care about what I'm saying, but if I can help them understand how it's going to help them do their job better or help them not have to talk to me ever again, whatever their motivation is, or not talk to the external auditors, they're going to do it for you. But a lot of times GRC professionals, we take ourselves too seriously. We go into these conversations and think these people work for us. And it's like, no, man, I get it. Your SOC 2, your HIPAA is really important. This dude has a day job that he's getting paid for.
His bonus isn't dependent on you getting that audit done, right?
Right. And they're expensive too. That's the other thing. I think about it from a business perspective. Like if you just add up the time in these meetings of developers, security engineers, X, Y, and Z, and you keep adding up all these people that are in these meetings and you keep doing meeting after meeting, that is an expensive exercise that those folks are now being taken away from. Again, what is the company asking them to do? And I think we just have to start thinking about that. And that will lead towards, all right, I need to understand the tool they're using. I need to understand how to automate some of these things because I want to help this person be able to do their job.
Yeah, if all your job is to collect the answers and put it on a spreadsheet, like you're not doing you should be. When I do stuff, I'm always preparing ahead of time. All right, what's the company do? What industry they're in? What systems do they have? What am I going to be approached with? Go in knowing something ahead of time so that you can, again, like you want to make the. And this to me is like kind of consulting 101. So not everybody learns this in their life, but like when you're asking for something, or even when you're telling somebody, whenever time you're communicating, make it as easy as possible to the person you're communicating for. I had an example of this happened just recently. Somebody was like, hey, here's this thing. And I was like, what is this? I don't have no context. And he's like, well, you can go look it up here. And then that's that. And I was like, well, that's fine. But like, just tell me everything I need to know now so I can make the decision and we can move on. Like, make it easy for them. And people, you know, this was in one of my posts on LinkedIn that a lot of people actually liked a lot, which was, we cannot expect everybody else to come up to our level. And I don't mean up to get smart, but like you said, if somebody's in HR, they give zero fucks about fucking security, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Your job is not to teach them that. Your job is to tell them, hey, I need these things so that I can do this thing and get out of your way.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. That, and I mean, it's the same thing for like us too. I'm going to move over here a little bit, but same thing for us where we don't care about HR, the inner workings of the we're just like, hey, I need to hire someone, and they have all their things. And it's like, if everybody just operates with a sense of empathy, and I think you hit it on the head too with the consulting 101, where like, I think there's power and it's interesting because in this world of AI, like everything's changing, right? But I think something that's going to help folks like yourself, folks like me, we have experiences back in the old days of flying out in economy in the back of the plane, sleeping in hotels, and in Omaha, Nebraska, like to go sit in a conference room for 4 days straight, talking to another company, doing consulting where you're truly an outsider. Everybody's walking by the conference room knows you're an outsider. They're coming in and out. Like that experience helps you have some empathy for the people you're dealing with because you really realize, hey man, these people have something else going on. Like, and I think it's just a part of consulting where it's like, all right, so I have 2 hours with this group and this meeting is going to make or break my week here. I better have my shit together. I better research. I better make sure that they feel welcomed. I better make sure I translate. So it's like a certain, and I think I was telling somebody this, I can't remember where, but I think this is like an advantage in the AI era that people that had that analog experience of being in person, because nowadays everybody's doing everything on Zoom. Very rarely are people going in person to do this stuff. So they're, you know, I feel bad for some of these younger generation because they're not getting that experience of just being in the conference room and people just keep coming in and out, and it's all day. And you're known as the security guy in there from X company. So like there's already a stigma on you before the people come in. And it's an experience that I think, again, it gives you empathy. It helps you understand the other side.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because, like, man, I am a huge proponent of remote work and work from home. I've been doing it since I've been in consulting, but I've always been like, you go where like you said, you go where like if I'm going to have a half-a-day workshop, I can't do that remotely. Right. No, I'm going to fly out and because and you know, and hopefully anybody who's ever done an assessment has experienced this. You sit down, you get it all scoped out, and you're like, okay, I need to talk about this domain, or I'll just use PCI. I need to talk about PCI. Okay, well, these 3 people deal with that. That's it. Okay, cool. Get them all in the room. 2 questions in, they're like, oh no, Bob does that. And another question, Mary comes in. Now you got 15 people in the room because there's 3 ways everything is done. There's the way it's documented, the way management thinks it works, and then the way it actually works. Right. And you don't know until you get all those people in the room going, oh no, but sometimes they get an email, and sometimes these people do this thing over here.
Yep. And you're just sitting there watching the conversation go on as they're all learning how it actually does. You're like, okay, well, now that we all know what actually happens, what do we want to happen? But yeah, I mean, that's an experience that I think if another reason why I think having some additional skill sets for GRC professionals is going to be important, because you're going to have to come to the table with more than I just know framework knowledge. You're going to have to come to the table to build those relationships, because you're not getting the opportunity to be by the cooler on a break in the coffee machine. Like you're losing out on some of that other stuff. So I think what's really important, and it's super, to me, it's super easy. Instead of GRC professional going to whoever to say, hey, I need evidence of X, before you ask for the evidence, learn what tools they use. Learn, they use a security hub for X, Y, and Z. Okay. Before I'm going to come back to you, I'm going to go do some research to see how security hub potentially has a way for me to get the data that I need and to care about. Or you're using Nessus. Okay. Well, I think I need vulnerability scans weekly. I think I only care about these type of hot things. Let me see let me go do some research, watch a YouTube video on Nessus and how to export data out of there. And it's like, to me, that's the bare minimum. Like just give a little bit of effort, right, to learn more about the inner workings of how the person works versus just being a request. And I think that's the transition that I ultimately think is positive. Like I think it makes GRC professionals more valuable to the organization when you're able to have that deep technical conversation with someone and then bring that information back to actually accomplish the GRC goals. And I think you end up getting to a place where those 3 ways of things being done start to become looking a lot closer.
Right.
You know more about the reality of how things work versus the way the evidence looks of how things work.
You know, it's interesting because you just said all that, and I never thought about it in that context for it. But like when I do like field CISO work, like my thing is like I go in and I'm like, all right, how's the business work? And then I'm like, where's the policies? And then I do everything I can to not bother anybody.
Yeah.
For like the first, like I learn everything I can. I go, oh, like this is the way it should be done. Okay, this is the way. Like I'm like, just point me where everything is so I can learn as much as I possibly can, and then come to you and say, okay, what are we? If I'm doing something based on a framework, I might even start to fulfill that thing out based on what I assume is in place, and be like, all right, I think this is how it goes. Challenge me. Tell me it's not like that. And I never really thought about it in the sense of GRC. I always just thought about like that's a CISO. That's you know, any CISO job I would take. That's like how you do it, right? So, yeah, low impact. But what do you think about? Because I got 2 things I want to go into. One, I'm going to say it and then kind of gloss over it because I think the problem you mentioned is like there's a lot of these middlemen, middle women, middle people that exist. And I think that's definitely a product of the school bus from the, from the big 4, like let's hire people who don't know anything and all they're going to do is answer questions and write things down. And now we have AI, so we don't need that. So now like the GRC people need a better path, I think. My second thing is what about, you talk about that security engineer who understands everything, from a technical standpoint. Yeah, I can teach somebody a framework easy. Like, wouldn't we just scale them up to be able to like handle the GRC stuff?
I think that's the inevitable outcome. Actually, when I did my talk at Forward Cloud Sec on GRC engineering, and the amount of security engineers that came up to me afterwards and said, "Hey, AJ, like, I'm pretty sure I'm doing GRC engineering already." They were like, "I didn't realize this was a name, and I didn't even understand there was jobs out there for this. But like everything that you described that a GRC engineer should be doing, like I literally do on a day-to-day basis, and then I try to get my GRC people to use it and they don't want it. They just want screenshots." And I was like, yeah, like part of my kind of warning to the GRC industry is there's already people that are doing this. You are working with them day-to-day basis. And again, when that spotlight comes on, if I'm a business person, it's much harder for me to teach someone the stuff the security engineer knows versus teaching them the stuff the GRC person knows. So the GRC person needs to get some more skills to protect themselves. And if not, like you're going to be in a really tough spot because like you said, everybody knows this. Like with AI now, I can teach anybody a framework. I'm confident of that. I can have AI do a lot of the heavy lifting for you on that as well. So it's like GRC professionals, you're kind of in a spot now where it's too late to think technical skills are nice to have. You got to have them, and if you don't, you're at risk. And I'm saying 5 years, it could be sooner. Like I'm seeing more companies are looking for, and again, it's like to me, it's the market pressures. Like you see it, like we all see it, like in the market, like CEOs are being told save money, do more with less. It's only a matter of time before they start looking at GRC professionals and saying, hold on, what are we paying this dude for?
Yeah.
To do what? Wait, well, I thought this other guy over here, he's our cloud security consultant guy or our field CISO guy. He seems to understand GRC and he understands the technical stuff. Why do I need another GRC guy? Like, are they doing, and it's like, oh, when their eyes open, it's you better have something else to stand on. And then I think the other part that's happening right now that we're already seeing, a lot of the assessment firms are starting to do layoffs and let go of people. And those folks are actually having a really hard time finding work because they don't have technical skills. So like if all you can lean on is I know frameworks, I can talk about controls, I can just do policies, like that was super valuable by itself 2 years ago. But if that's all you can do, you're in a tough spot. Like if you can't go have that conversation about how the vulnerability management policy should translate to the people actually doing the vulnerability management work, it's going to be it's a rough new world you're entering in. And I think that's what GRC folks should understand. But I think at the same time, it's early. So if you become a GRC person right now with a ton of technical skills combined with your framework and other skills, you're going to be a unicorn for now. But I think in like 4 to 5 years, everybody's going to have those skills. So opportunity in the next 2 to 3 years to really accelerate, grow your career and be a leader, you know, in this new emerging field. Because even my boss and I, Lloyd Evans, we were talking about this earlier, that we're starting to, just in the work we do, we're starting not to see a difference between traditional GRC and GRC engineering. To us, it's really bleeding and becoming the same thing, because I can't really do one without the other. And I think that world where like this GRC engineering concept, technical folks concept is like this other aspect of GRC, they're starting to blend to the point where it's like GRC is technical, and that's just going to be the world we live in. And, you know, I think people are fighting it. I don't think auditors like it. Obviously, if anybody looks at my comments, they'll see that auditors do not like it. And I think because the business model of professional services firms is going to be challenged in this new world of AI. We're moving into an outcome-based, value-based world. And when you do that, it kind of changes the way that you can bill people for things if you're only focused on value, which ultimately, again, I think it's a net positive, but I do think it requires some hurdles of learning that we've all been in, you know, when new technologies come out. I think the same thing happened with the cloud, right? Like cloud came, people were like, no, we're going to stay on-prem. And then now everything's cloud. And it's like the people that learned cloud early and got in and were able to help people figure out ways to secure it have done very well. And I think we're in the same moment with GRC.
Yeah, there's no reason we shouldn't get hit with the technology hurting us a little bit, right? I mean, I look back several years ago, hiring a bunch of GRC folks, and we were getting them much, much cheaper than we were 5 or 10 years ago.
Right.
Somebody who built some GRC practices in my time, like it used to be, you know, super high rates and super, super high salaries. And now you can kind of, you know, but like to your point, if you can do application security or cloud security, you know, you can kind of charge a premium because, you know, you're looking to where the future is. So I think that's, I don't think you're wrong there on that point.
Yeah. It's an interesting world. And I'm excited. I think there's a opportunity for some really cool things, and it can strengthen the profession overall if we can do what the rest of security has done over the last decade, which is shift security left. Now it's time to shift compliance left. Let's get into the CI/CD pipelines. Let's get into the DevSecOps workflows and go get the data where it's actually happening. Where I think the biggest example of like the shift in GRC, if anybody's watching this, is like, AJ, you're talking theoretical, but here's a very concrete example. Right now, a lot of auditors are saying, let me get a screenshot or let me get JIRA tickets to prove that software changes were done according to a policy, peer-reviewed, tested X, Y, and Z. That is an outcome of a process. That is not the process. You can go get that process by looking at what are the protection rules on that branch in GitHub, what SaaS and DAST and container or whatever other scans are happening in the pipeline, and then what are the rules set by the engineers that say, hey, if these things are met, this change can go to production. Like that's where the actual stuff is happening. And we need to, as compliance professionals, stop asking for the data at the end that already came out of the process and go embed ourselves where DevSecOps folks have embedded themselves now.
Yeah, you should see the JIRA check. I mean, it's auditing what's going on. Like you should see before they made the change that it was sent out, change control and all that would happen.
Right. So it's like we don't need a list of all your JIRA tickets. Like I need to go look and see how did you configure things in your CI/CD pipeline. And guess what? You just saved everybody time and energy. like you know a lot more. You can be more sure of your testing. So I think it's just that simple of like, let's shift left. Let's move compliance more left. And then let's start one control at a time and just figure out ways to get real security data for our GRC efforts. And I think if we do that, you're ultimately going to make GRC real and tangible because it's going to speak to the real security, but you're going to be working closer with the people that you're being impacted by this GRC work, which ultimately to me is positive because now you'll have more of a connection there.
Right. My like last bit of advice to anybody in the kind of in this space would be also learn how to build a program, because that's what GRC is, man. Like whether it's just like a small data protection program or a big security program, like understand how to do like staffing models and build roadmaps and estimate projects and all, like learn how to be a CISO effectively, right? Because you don't have to get to that CISO role, but if you can come in and build a program instead of just being an audit assess kind of person, I think there's a lot of I'm seeing a lot more BISOs and deputy CISOs coming up in the last couple of years. Yep. And whether and even like the ISO role, which used to be, kind of nothing, is kind of basically a BISO role now too. So we're starting to see more and more of those people who are managing programs. I think that's a great place for those GRC folks too.
Absolutely. 100% agree. Yeah.
So AJ, dude, I could talk to you forever, but I think people stop listening here in a little while. So where can everybody find you on the interwebs if they want to?
Yeah, LinkedIn is a great place. AJ Yawn over there. I'm posting daily and doing some fun stuff. I challenge a lot in the GRC industry. You'll have some fun in my comments. And recently, last week, released a book, GRC Engineering for AWS. So if you want to learn more about the GRC engineering stuff I'm talking about with some real code examples and case studies and all of that, I wrote 42,000 words for some strange reason about it. So it's been, and the book's been number one bestseller on Amazon. So excited about that. A lot of people have bought it, but that's where find me on LinkedIn and probably at some security conferences here in the fall.
That's fantastic. Thanks, AJ, man. Appreciate you.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks for enjoying Keyboard Samurai Podcast. If you'd like to engage, find Will on LinkedIn at /WillClue or visit at willclue.me. That's WILKLU.me for more info. Disconnecting now. Synac you later.